I recently sat down with David, a retired engineer living just outside Chicago. He's the kind of neighbor you might pass on your morning walk, friendly, unassuming, and quietly proud of the life he's built over decades of hard work. On paper, David is what most people would call a millionaire. His retirement accounts total over $4 million, a sum that would make many people envious. He's spent years saving, investing, and planning for the future, carefully tracking every dollar. But when I asked David if he felt rich, he just laughed. A warm, genuine laugh, tinged with disbelief. "Rich?" he said. "I don't feel rich at all." Despite his impressive savings, David feels firmly middle class. He's always watching his spending, clipping coupons, and worrying about what tomorrow might bring. The habits of a lifetime, frugality, caution, and a little bit of anxiety, haven't faded, even with a seven-figure nest egg. The reality is, his sense of security is constantly under threat. Rising property taxes chip away at his budget, healthcare costs seem to climb every year, and there's always something in the house that needs fixing. Even with millions in the bank, these expenses make him feel vulnerable. On top of that, David finds himself helping his adult children, who are facing their own financial challenges, student loans, high rents, and uncertain job markets. He wants to support them, but every check he writes brings a new wave of worry. Meanwhile, the news is filled with stories of billionaires and tech moguls whose fortunes make his look tiny by comparison. It's hard not to feel small when the headlines are all about people with private jets and sprawling mansions. David once believed that having millions would bring him peace of mind. Instead, he feels like he's running on a treadmill. No matter how hard he works or how much he saves, he's always trying to keep up with rising costs and shifting expectations. It makes you wonder, if someone with $4 million doesn't feel rich, who actually does? Is there ever a number that finally brings contentment? David's story reveals a deeper truth. Wealth isn't just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about the weight of your expenses, the obligations you carry, and whether you feel secure enough to enjoy what you have. The definition of rich keeps shifting, like a moving goalpost. No matter how much you have, it always seems just out of reach, especially when the world keeps raising the bar. For many, the American dream was never about yachts or private jets. It was about peace of mind, a sense of stability, and the freedom to stop worrying about money. But today, that peace is more elusive than ever. Even those who seem to have made it can find themselves lying awake at night, wondering if it's enough. In today's America, even millionaires can feel like they're barely getting by, squeezed by rising costs and shifting expectations. The real question isn't how much you have, but whether you feel safe enough to stop worrying, and for many, that feeling is the hardest thing to find. Earning a six-figure salary sounds impressive, and for many, it's the ultimate symbol of financial success. It conjures images of luxury, comfort, and the freedom to spend without worry. But the reality for many high earners is far more complicated. Despite the big paycheck, many high earners wonder where all the money goes at the end of each month. The numbers on paper don't always translate to a life free from financial stress. Taxes are the first big drain. Federal, state, and local taxes can cut a $200,000 salary in half. Social Security, Medicare, and other withholdings further shrink take-home pay, leaving less than expected. Then there's the rising cost of living. In cities where high salaries are common, so are high prices for everything from rent to a cup of coffee. Groceries, gas, and basic expenses have all climbed, quietly eroding disposable income. Even small daily purchases add up, making it harder to save. Healthcare is another major burden. Medical costs in the U.S. are among the highest in the world, and they're rising every year. Even with insurance, premiums, deductibles, and co-pays add up fast. Unexpected medical bills can derail even the best financial plans. One medical emergency can wipe out years of savings, forcing families to dip into retirement funds or take on debt just to stay afloat. Housing costs in major cities are sky high, with rent and mortgages eating up a huge chunk of income. And property taxes and maintenance never stop. College tuition keeps rising, making higher education a major financial hurdle for families. This forces families to save aggressively or take on debt, often sacrificing other goals or delaying retirement. Add it all up, and even a high salary can feel average. The gap between income and true wealth becomes clear. The money is spoken for before you even see it, with little left for building real financial security or enjoying life's pleasures. For many, a big paycheck doesn't buy the sense of security they expected. The pressure to keep up with a high-cost lifestyle can be overwhelming. That's why rich is about more than income. It's about what's left after life takes its share, and how much freedom and peace of mind you truly have. What does it mean to feel rich? Is it a number in your bank account, a certain kind of car in your driveway, or something more subtle, like a sense of security or freedom? The answer is surprisingly personal, and it changes depending on who you are and where you find yourself in life. It's not a fixed number. It's shaped by where you live, who you compare yourself to, and even what stage of life you're in. For some, feeling rich might mean being able to travel. For others, it's simply not worrying about bills at the end of the month. In a small Midwestern town, $150,000 a year can buy a big house, a comfortable life, and maybe even a sense of abundance. You might have space to stretch out, a backyard for the kids, and a community that feels familiar and supportive. Move to San Francisco or New York, and that same salary barely covers rent. Suddenly, what once felt like plenty now feels tight, and luxuries become out of reach. The cost of living can transform what your income means overnight. Surrounded by tech millionaires, you might feel like you're falling behind, even if you're earning more than most Americans. Social comparison is powerful. The people around you set the standard for what enough looks like, and that standard can be impossibly high. We measure ourselves against neighbors and friends, not national averages. It's the people we see every day, their homes, their vacations, their new gadgets, that shape our sense of what's normal. Social media only amplifies this, bombarding us with images of luxury lifestyles. Every scroll can make us question if we're keeping up, even if those images are carefully curated highlights, not everyday reality. Feeling rich is about perspective. Whether your income supports the life you want, and whether you feel secure or always on edge. Sometimes, true wealth is the ability to relax, to enjoy time with loved ones, and to feel at peace with your choices. The goalposts for rich keep shifting, depending on your environment, your ambitions, and the people you interact with. What feels like wealth in one place or time can feel like just getting by in another. That's why even millionaires can feel middle class. No matter how much you have, there's always someone with more, and that can make it hard to appreciate your own success. It's not just about what you have, but who you're comparing yourself to. Ultimately, the feeling of being rich is less about numbers and more about your mindset, your surroundings, and what truly matters to you. America's wealth isn't just uneven, it's staggeringly concentrated. The top 10% of households hold over two-thirds of the nation's wealth, averaging $8.1 million each. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% own just 2.5% of the wealth, with little savings or investments. This gap drives up the cost of housing and education, making it harder for most families to get ahead. When a small group controls so much, it creates a sense of hopelessness for everyone else. Even those with substantial savings feel far from the true centers of wealth and power. The system feels rigged, and the middle class feels squeezed. That's why so many Americans, even those doing well, still feel financially vulnerable. With traditional paths to wealth feeling out of reach, Americans are chasing new ways to get ahead. The tech boom and AI investments have minted hundreds of thousands of new millionaires. In 2024 alone, over 500,000 Americans joined the millionaire ranks, many thanks to AI and tech startups. Cryptocurrency has also gone mainstream, with Bitcoin hitting record highs and drawing in new investors. The rush for the next big thing is fueled by anxiety. People worry that steady jobs and savings aren't enough anymore. More are taking risks, hoping for a shortcut to security. The chase for wealth is a response to a system that feels stacked against the average person. For many, speculation feels like the only way to catch up. The truly wealthy don't just chase trends, they build wealth through strategic, diversified investments. Real estate is a cornerstone, with 90% of millionaires using it to grow their net worth. Gold remains a safe haven, especially during inflation, with prices hitting new highs. Fine art is another tool, now accessible through fractional ownership platforms. The key is ownership of property, businesses, and assets that generate income. The wealthy use their capital to buy things that make more capital. This mindset, focusing on assets, not just income, drives the widening wealth gap. For most, relying on a paycheck alone makes it hard to keep up. Wealth in America follows clear patterns by education, race, and age. Households with college degrees own 75% of the nation's wealth, while those without lag far behind. Racial gaps persist. White households average 1.5 million, while Black and Hispanic households have far less, and the gap is growing. Generationally, Millennials and Gen Z are actually doing slightly better than previous generations at the same age, thanks to asset growth after the pandemic. But the American dream is still unevenly distributed. Your background, education, and even birth year shape your financial future. For some, wealth feels attainable. For others, it's always out of reach. The system's structure matters as much as individual effort. The U.S. is one of the world's wealthiest nations, ranking 10th globally in GDP per capita. But many countries ahead of the U.S. are small, with unique economic advantages, like Luxembourg's finance sector or Qatar's oil. America's wealth is vast, but it's not evenly shared. In countries like Denmark or the Netherlands, wealth is spread more evenly, with stronger safety nets and higher quality of life for the average citizen. Recent global crises, pandemics, inflation, conflict, have widened the gap between rich and poor everywhere. In the U.S., the average person's experience doesn't always match the nation's top-line wealth. Internal distribution matters as much as the total amount. Being a rich country doesn't mean everyone feels rich. For many Americans, the promise of prosperity feels distant. The story of wealth is as much about who has it as how much there is. So, what does it really mean to be rich? It's not just a number on a bank statement. If millionaires can still feel anxious, maybe wealth is about security, freedom, and contentment. For many, true wealth means having enough, not worrying about bills, emergencies, or the future. It's about financial freedom to live life on your own terms, not about luxury or status. Shifting focus from comparison to gratitude can bring more satisfaction than chasing ever higher numbers. True wealth is found in health, relationships, and purpose, things money can't buy. Ultimately, success is personal. Is it a number, or is it peace of mind? Maybe the richest person is the one who sleeps soundly at night.